Hey guys, it's Destiny, and today I'll be going over the top 10 characters I recommend for new players in Honkai Star Rail. I actually grabbed a few of my friends for this video, and they'll be sharing their thoughts on some of the characters I've put on this list. Before we begin, let me know what characters you guys would recommend for new players, and also for a quick disclaimer before we get into the criteria of my top 10, if a character is not on this list, it doesn't mean that they are a bad character or that they are not worth picking up. The list primarily follows the criteria I made for this top 10, and I'd love to know all your thoughts on the characters you guys also recommend. If you guys do enjoy videos like these, do make sure to subscribe, leave a like to support the video, and now let's get straight into it. To begin, let's quickly go over the criteria for the top 10. These characters have to be amazing for going through early game from TL1 to 35, and investing into these characters early on will be worthwhile for mid to late game. These characters do not require heavy investment early on to be strong for the content you'll be going through. These characters are also nice for learning about skill point management, how kits can synergize with one another, when to use your ultimate, and overall just helping with learning the fundamentals when it comes to team building in Honkai Star Rail. The final piece of the criteria includes the ease of use of each of these characters when it comes to their skill kits. Now that we've gone over the criteria, to begin our list, it is none other than Dr. Ratio. Dr. Ratio is currently a free 5-star that any player can acquire, and he is an amazing imaginary DPS that any player can use. Dr. Ratio is able to help you clear earlier content with his strength and his skill kit, especially with his follow-up attacks. Dr. Ratio loves allies who can debuff enemies so that you can guarantee his follow-up attack onto them. If you do not have too many allies that can debuff enemies though, there is a chance you'll inflict the follow-up attacks onto the enemies rather than the guarantee, which can be seen as a small limitation early on when it comes to his skill kit. I will say though, he is great at helping players learn how to take advantage of a single target character kit in order to get through content. A great way is focusing Dr. Ratio's skill onto one enemy and then using his ultimate on the other enemy on the field so that Dr. Ratio can actually effectively deal with multiple enemies at once. What's even nicer is that once you go through Simulated Universe a bit more, you can use the Cruising and Cellar C as a nice free-to-play option on your Dr. Ratio, which makes him a good carry for players early on and also a great investment for mid to late game. Next up, we have Serval. Serval is a free lightning character that all players are able to obtain and is an excellent AoE damage dealer to build on your account. What's really nice about Serval is her ability to shock enemies, which is great for debuffing enemies with damage over time. Serval is able to extend the shocks she deals onto enemies and has a pretty low ultimate cost at only 100, which means you'll be able to hit every enemy you're facing against with her skill kit when you do use her ultimate. You may be wondering if Serval is honestly worth investing into early on for late game, and I would personally say yes. As you progress through the game and get Eidolons on her eventually, she could definitely pack a punch for endgame content as well, and make her a great unit to consider investing into, especially if you want more versatility with damage dealers on your account. And she can also use the free-to-play Breakfast Light Cone as well. Now though, let's get into the next few characters from some of my awesome friends.
How is everybody doing today? It's Rihu, and if there's one thing everyone needs as a beginner, it's 100% to sustain to keep your team alive when it comes to the multitude of content that there is in Honkai Star Rail. And if Star Rail wasn't generous enough, we actually have 2 different free sustains in game for you to grab that 100% carry you from start to finish and have more use than just keeping your team alive. Lynx is the first one, who can be obtained early on in Pure Fiction, and of course if you happen to pull her by chance as well. Lynx has a skill that heals a single target if someone is getting targeted down, but also has a panic button ultimate which has an innate cleanse and heal for the whole entire team. Lynx's talent allows for continuous healing over time for anyone healed with their skill or ultimate, which allows for characters to heal back up to max health or to take a few more hits before Lynx's next heal. The best part about Lynx is that she can be universally used with any team, but she actually synergizes very well with some units you may have interest in, such as Blade and even Clara, who some of you may pull from the starter banner or losing your 50-50. These two units kids prefer for enemies to target them, which allows Lynx to use her skill and increase the value of taunt that each of these allies have when they are part of the destruction or preservation path. Lynx can be easily built with Wandering Cloud 4-piece, which is available at the start of the game in your first relic domain and can be upgraded even more as you progress through the game. Investing in her early game will not only allow you to have a trusty healer to keep you alive at the start of the game, but will prove to be a godsend into late game when you start dealing with the monstrous amount of debuffs and stuns that you can cleanse right off with the whole team from your ultimate. And moving on to the next 4-star sustain that's free, it is Gallagher, who is currently free through Selector, and again if you end up pulling him by chance. He is a brand new addition to the roster of Honkai Star Rail and can prove to be an amazing ally for you coming into your start of your journey all the way to his monstrous potential in the late game. Gallagher, just like Lynx, has a single target heal but also has the unique ability to apply debuffs from not only his ultimate, which hits the entire enemy wave, but also allows him to obtain an enhanced basic attack, which again provides a second debuff that can be put onto enemies as well. Once an enemy is inflicted with Besotted coming from his ultimate, any ally who attacks this enemy will be healed off turn, and the enhanced basic attack will also lower the attack of a single target, making them hit for a lot less, making it easier for your team to survive explosive hits from the enemy. Gallagher can also be built with another early game set, which not only has its own domain, but you passively get from doing your weekly boss runs, which is going to be the 4-piece thief set. Just like Lynx, who in early game can be used on any team to keep them alive, he also has unique synergies with some units that you may possibly have as well. One being Dr. Ratio, who is currently free, who loves debuffs to amplify his kit, but also Acheron, who wants debuffs coming from the team as well. Gallagher 100% will be an amazing character to pick up and invest in if you're looking for a sustain to keep your team alive in the early game, but also has the destructive power to destroy enemies with the offensive nature of his ultimate in the later portions of the game. So when you pick up these free 4-star sustains, don't shrug them off to the side, because they can prove to be a lifesaver if you so choose to invest in them.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and talk about why I like Gepard as a free-to-play friendly unit. One of my favorite things about him is he has high aggro value, which means he has a very high chance of being hit by the enemy. Two things about this that is good is that if he gets hit, that builds up his energy recharge. Once his energy's up, he pop his ult, he gives his ult to his team, giving them a nice little comfy shield. The other thing about him getting hit is, well, nobody else is getting hit, so that's a good thing. So let's go ahead. We're going to pop his technique to give a shield to our team, and then we're going to open up here with Pela. Now, like I said, he has high aggro value, so the chances of him getting hit, oh, there it is. There it is. And he got hit again. That's exactly what I'm talking about. He literally has high taunt value, so the chances of him getting struck are very likely. I would like to remind you guys, I do have his light cone on, so that increases it all the more so. But even without rocking it, he still has a very high chance of being struck. Now, the next thing I like about him is you don't have to do anything with him except auto attack, unless you're in a position where you're forced to use his skill in order to bridge that gap to get his ultimate up, or maybe you're trying to freeze the enemy. But for the most part, if you're on a team where they're very skill point heavy, they're consuming a number of skill points, just auto attack with them the whole time. Boom, boom, his ult's already up. We're gonna go ahead and pop that ult. Now my team has a beefy shield almost covering the entirety of their health pool, which leads me to believe if you are playing with Gepard, you want to strive and push for as much defense value as possible. The bigger his defense, the bigger his shield value will be provided to the team. So let's just go ahead and auto attack here. Gepard got hit again. Gepard got hit again. This is actually a perfect showcase for you, Moon. This is a perfect showcase. Oh my god, that's the good thing about Gepard, guys. He loves being a meat shield. Look, it got hit again. He hasn't even broken through Gepard's shield, and now we haven't taken an ounce of damage, so this is really nice. Now there is a problem we ran into here. He did get CC'd, so building in some effective resistance will help your Gepard avoid those type of situations. But other than that, pretty straightforward. Let's move on to the next thing that's good about Gepard. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you guys about that can come in handy in many situations where things are dire is Gepard's skill. His skill can be used to freeze the unit that's getting ready to attack one of the characters that you may not want to get attacked. But what you could do is you can target him like this guy's doing this arrow attack. We can target him with our skill and try to freeze him. There we go. And now that he is frozen, we have delayed him from shooting that arrow at my forehead. That is pretty much Some of the best qualities free to play wise of Japard, especially when you're progressing through the earlier half of the game. He was my best sustainer back in my early days, and I'm sure he'll bring a ton of value to you guys. Just drop some defense on him, build him with some speed, and you're good to go.
Hello Internet, I'm God Douglas, and I'll be presenting to you with one of the best characters for newer players, Luocha. A newer player's first order of business is to usually obtain a good sustain, or else you just die to any enemies in a long fight, right? Luocha here can do exactly that. His kit involves a single target heal with a debuff cleanse that can automatically trigger when an ally falls below half health. This does not cost a skill point, although it does have a 2-turn cooldown. Even then, however, Luocha is still heralded as the easiest healer to use in the game, since this heal will only be triggered during emergencies when your allies are low without needing a skill point. Newer players that doesn't have a big roster will have more freedom with using skill points on anyone else just by having Luocha in the team. His talent allows him to stack up to 2 Abyss Flower, which he can gain through his skill and ultimate. The moment he gains 2 of them, he activates a healing field. Within it, your ally will gain a heal every time they attack. The massive amount of healing he brings can carry your team through even the toughest of fights from early till endgame in any game mode. Not to mention, if you really have to manually spend a skill point on Luocha himself for a heal, you can do that as well. This showcases the ease of use and overall versatility that any newer player would appreciate. On top of that, he even has an ultimate that can dispel an enemy buff, which is exceedingly useful against certain enemies that has some pesky buffs on them. That's right, not only he's a healer that you can rely on, he can further increase your survivability by getting rid of buffs on the enemy, effectively weakening their abilities. By investing in a tried and true healer in Luocha, newer players will have an easier time during early progression and even sets you up perfectly going into mid till late game. Now of course, a Luocha would perform incredibly well if you have good investment on him, but he will work fine even with lower investments as well. In this showcase against MOC12, he only had mostly level 6 traces, and he still healed way more than enough to keep my team alive. So yeah, don't you worry, Luocha is very newbie friendly. Definitely be on the lookout for Luocha, he will not let you down.
Next up, we have Clara. Clara is an amazing option that can help you power through content in the game. Clara is able to take the pressure off of allies with her ability to increase the likelihood of her being hit, and what's even better is that when Clara does get hit, she will launch a destructive follow-up attack onto enemies. I actually had Clara at the beginning of my Star Rail journey, and she certainly packs a punch when it comes to multiple enemies on the field attacking in succession, especially when they hit Clara. What's even nicer about Clara is that 2 of her partners who can assist with her follow-up attacks happen to be free. One of them is March 7th, who can put her shield onto Clara, and now Clara will be hit more often, which allows you to retaliate against the enemy. Lynx is another option who can use her skill onto Clara, which increases the chance of enemies hitting Clara. And as a result, Clara is able to hit enemies more often with her follow-up attacks, and then Clara's ultimate steps it up a notch. She increases her likelihood of being hit with her ultimate, reduces the damage taken to her, which helps with her survivability, and now Clara's follow-up attacks are even stronger. And even if Clara doesn't get hit, when her follow-up attacks are enhanced from her ultimate, she will launch a follow-up attack regardless of who on the team gets attacked. Overall, Clara is an amazing character when it comes to having her own self-survivability, and with the right teammates, she could be a powerhouse for any player. Plus, let's be honest, who doesn't love seeing lasers on the screen?
Hey, Goba here, and I'll be talking about why Pela is invaluable for your account as a new player. Pela's kit at its core doesn't seem that special. It doesn't have the 100 lines that Acheron's kit may have, but she's got all that she needs. Her ultimate is the key part of her kit, applying defense reduction to all enemies. This is a multiplicative boost to all damage dealt to those enemies, and more damage is always a good thing. Also, def reduction plays on the def multiplier, which is linked between your character level and the enemy levels. Her being able to reduce defense makes pushing high level content much easier. She has so many reasons why she is so comfy to use for new players. Her basics and skills require no leveling, her talent doesn't need to be completely maxed in most occasions, and her build requirements are simple. Stack her with defensive stats, 57% effect hit rate, and speed. All you'll then need to do is spam her basics and ultimate, and voila. Finally, Pela can even remove enemy buffs with her skill if you ever need that, useful for several enemies that appear both in the early game and in the end game.
Next up, we have Tingyun. Tingyun is a Lightning Harmony character who is a great 4-star who can make your main damage dealer stronger with her skill, which increases their attack based on her attack stat, and this lasts for 3 turns. Tingyun is a pretty skill point positive character as a result, and her ultimate is the cherry on top. Tingyun's ultimate gives a hefty amount of energy to any ally on the team, and also gives that ally a nice damage increase. Tingyun is an incredible buffer for a bunch of team comps, which makes her pretty universal for your teams. And the energy she grants an ally can help you use your main DPS's ultimate more often, which can lead to more damage output overall. Or if you're in a really tough situation, you can actually use Tingyun's ultimate on a supportive character to get off an emergency heal, which makes her pretty versatile for who she can use her ultimate on. When it comes to building her, I would recommend investing into her attack stat for her skill giving more attack to an ally, defensive stats for your Tingyun to be a bit more bulky, speed boots and speed substats, and of course an energy regeneration rope so you can get her ultimate more often. I would highly recommend, if you guys do have a Tingyun on your account, to consider investing into her. She's a great character even at only E0, and she could be used for many damage dealers with the attack, damage, and energy benefits she's able to give an ally. Now we are nearing the end of the top 10, and this decision was one of my harder picks as to who to suggest, but after considerable thinking, I have to go with Blade. Blade is a wind destruction class character who highly focuses on follow-up attacks, which is based on how many times he gets attacked. Blade is able to restore his own HP with his follow-up attacks and deals more damage to enemies with his ultimate the more damage he ends up taking from those enemies. Blade also doesn't require many skill points. He will only have to use one skill point to go into his enhanced mode for increased basic attack damage, and this will last for a few turns before he has to use another skill point. Blade is a very comfortable character with the right team members and is able to withstand a bunch of damage, especially since Blade scales off of the HP stat, which makes him bulkier in comparison to our other DPS characters. Blade is very nice for newer players because of his bulkiness as well as damage output and comfortability. Another perk for Blade is that since Lynx is free, you're going to be able to get one of his best team members who allows him to get hit more often and unleash more frequent follow-up attacks. Overall, Blade is an incredible option for early game as well as going to mid to late game with his skill kit. Now, let's get into our last character of today's video.
Go baby, what's good guys? Yoku here, and why would I not be the one to introduce today's #1 best character for new players? And of course, as the Acheron main, the Acheron simp, obviously it's Acheron. Why else would I be here? She's the best character in the game, both from a raw damage perspective and future investment. Early game, without relics, she carries players easily thanks to her own natural ability to buff her damage upwards of 160% just by adding another Nihility unit on the team. Then by progressing through the story, doing events and the side quests, you're gonna get rewarded with an ample amount of universal relics that Acheron can take full advantage of during early game, such as Musketeer, Thieves, Bandit of Sizzling Thunder, and Inert Salcedo from the simulated universe. She also pairs amazingly with some of the completely free units given to you in the game, those being Fire MC, along with Pela, who's currently on the banner and in this top 10 list, as well as Gunaifen, who is free from a 4-star selector. Acheron has plenty of steam to blow to focus on building a proper team just for her. But that doesn't mean you can't use those units on other teams either. Building the best DPS in the game from TL1 to 35 with a dedicated focus on learning everything about how to pilot this character will ensure once you reach late game, she'll be a monster in the making. Following this path will make sure you can focus on maxing out her traces before you reach late game, leaving the relic grind no longer up to chance thanks to the 60% fuel you'll save by efficiently investing into your account. Now, most of today's new players know what characters to put on a team, but they don't actually know why or how they work in order to properly play said team. Acheron is one of the few characters, if not the best character, that is going to force you to learn the fundamentals of the game, both in terms of team building and in combat. And while the word forced might seem off-putting, this is one of the most important factors for you to start learning now because of the new direction Honkai Star Rail has quickly been shifting the meta towards. And have you seen her ultimate popping 1,000,000 damage? Why would you not want to achieve that? Last but not least, her technique is a literal cheat code that helps you run through the overworld for free without actually fighting any enemy except the elites. You're gonna pull this character.
And that'll be all for our top 10. Thank you very much to God Doggos, Rihu, Io, Goba Certified, and Gotcha Smack for voicing their opinions on some of the characters that I picked on my list. Thank you very much. I heavily appreciate it, and do make sure to check them out as well. They're all amazing content creators. I highly recommend it. I hope you guys did enjoy this video, and once again, just to put it out there, These are primarily my recommendations for newer players. If you guys disagree, that is completely okay. I would just love all of us as a community to come together and recommend characters for our newer players. I will be making another version of this type of video when it comes to more endgame-like content, characters that excel very, very well with endgame, so also look forward to that. And if you guys also want a free-to-play version of this video where it's completely free characters, I go over them in depth at that, let me know by leaving a like on this video. And if you guys did enjoy, do make sure to subscribe. Let me know what you guys think, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Peace.